They change their energy. And when you change your energy, you change your life. And when you're truly focused and you're truly paying attention and you're in the present moment, all of a sudden, you will leave this three-dimensional reality. And when you leave this three-dimensional reality, there's only one other place you go, and that is the realm of thought, and that's called the quantum field.
The voice behind a movement that blends science and spirit in a way that's both real and revolutionary.
Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Joe Dispenza.
The latest research on genes says genes don't create disease. It's the environment that signals the gene that creates disease.
The emotional environment or the physical environment?
Your environment. Thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. Those chemicals give the brain and body a rush of energy, and people become addicted to that rush of energy. So now they use the problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion. They need the bad job. You gotta lay down the very thing you used your whole life to get what you want for something greater to occur.
You've been working with teaching people how to heal themselves with their minds, right? Overcome disease, overcome any type of chronic illness or pain through the mind, the principle of the mind. I grew up in a religion called Christian Science that did not use medicine. I didn't get vaccinations when I was a kid. My dad wouldn't let me go to the hospital. He wanted to use thought, prayer, the mindset to overcome any pain or any physical ailment. And so this is something that I was learning in a different way as an early kid. When did you start to learn about this philosophy or principle or truth and start applying it to your life?
Well, I got run over by a truck in a triathlon in 1986 on the biking portion of the race. I broke 6 vertebrae in my spine, and I was told that I'd never walk again. And so the typical surgical procedure for multiple compression fractures with cord impingement is this surgery called Harrington rod surgery. And in my case, they were going to cut off the backs of parts of my vertebrae from the base of my neck to the base of my spine. And then they screw in these long stainless steel rods, and when you screw those rods into the vertebrae, it acts like a cantilever. It lifts the spinal column off the cord. But the prognosis was I probably wouldn't walk again, and that the surgery was hopeful that it would give me some relief. And I think if it was any other patient, Louis, besides me, I probably would have recommended the surgery, but this was me, you know?
Sure.
And I just couldn't rush into it. So I had 4 opinions, from 4 of the leading surgeons in Southern California, and they were adamant that I needed this surgery.
All 4 of them?
All 4 of them. Yeah, in fact, the medical director of Scripps Hospital at the time was my surgeon. And he thought I had a head injury, or he thought, that I had PTSD, that I wasn't just following his instruction. Anyway, I decided against the surgery, and I thought, well, listen, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm basically laying face down. And I thought, well, there's an intelligence that's giving us life, that's keeping our heart beating and digesting our food. It really knows how to heal way better than me. This innate intelligence is what's giving us life. And I thought, well, if it's an intelligence, it's a consciousness. And consciousness is awareness, and awareness is paying attention. So it must be paying attention to me. So I said, look, maybe I'll just spend the rest of my time trying to connect to this intelligence and give it a plan, give it a design, give it a template. And when I was really present and complete with that design, I would surrender this creation to this greater mind and allow it to do the healing for me. And the other thing I said is I'm not going to let any thought slip by my awareness that I don't want to experience. Now that sounds really easy, right? But when you're faced with crisis or trauma, we tend to focus on what we don't want to have happen instead of what we do want to have happen. So I started on this journey. I decided against the surgery, and it was a big revolution at the time. And I went through 6.5 weeks of hell. I just could not get my mind to do what I wanted it to do, because I'd start reconstructing my vertebrae and imaging an outcome, and then I'd start thinking, I'm going to be living in a wheelchair, or should I sell my practice?
So you were thinking about the way you wanted your body to look and feel in your mind.
I reconstructed every single
in the
vertebrae.
mind.
Yeah, in my mind. I wanted to show it exactly 3-dimensionally. Yeah.
In your mind.
In my mind.
You're not drawing it out, or
no. In my mind, I was reconstructing.
You're visualizing.
Yeah,
it
visualizing.
all the time.
And I wanted to say, look, take a look at that, because this intelligence is always present, right? So we got to be present with it. So I'd start off reconstructing my spine, and then I'd be like, oh gosh, should I sell my practice? What if I live in a wheelchair?
You practice chiropractic practice
in Southern California, La Jolla. So I couldn't get my mind to do what I wanted to do. And then after 6 weeks, I just went through the whole thing. I felt like I hit a golf ball right in the sweet spot. Something clicked. And from that point forward, what took me 2.5 or 3 hours to do, I was able to do in 45 minutes. I was firing and wiring, these new circuits, and I was practicing paying attention. And then all of a sudden, I started noticing dramatic changes in my health like this. And the moment I started noticing changes in my body, what was going on outside of me, and I started correlating at what I was doing inside of me, now I was just hooked, and I just started doing it with more passion and more sincerity. Anyway, back on my feet in 10.5 weeks, back training at 12 weeks, back in my clinic, and I just made a deal with myself that if I was ever able to walk again, I'd spend the rest of my life studying the mind-body connection and mind over matter. And then that led me to just stop everything in my life. I just wasn't the same guy. I'd just been initiated into something, and sold my practice, sold my home.
You sold it all.
Sold it all, moved to the Northwest, and just started asking bigger questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What are we doing? What happens when we die? And how did all this happen for me? What was the process? I started studying the science behind it, and I couldn't find it in any conventional textbooks because this was unconventional, right? And miraculous is kind of unconventional. So I started studying quantum physics and neuroscience and epigenetics, and it started making sense. I started building this model of understanding. Then I asked the fundamental question, has anybody else done it? So then I traveled to 17 different countries and interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people with serious health conditions that were treating either conventionally or unconventionally. They were staying the same or getting worse, and all of a sudden they got better. So what was the cause that produced the effect, And the stories and what I learned was so amazing. I went back to school and studied neuroscience, because mind was such a strong element. It wasn't diet, it wasn't celibacy, it wasn't any of those things. It was just really this element. And so then I was able to figure out that there were 4 common things. And then I wrote a book about it, and then I thought, God, if this works really on people that were sick and are better, and they come from all walks of life, all colors, all races, all genders, sexual preferences, but all of a sudden, I wanted to see if I was able to reproduce it. So then I started seeing, okay, let's see if we can teach this, be able to reproduce the outcome, because that's science, right? So we went through about...
What were the 4 common things?
The first one was that they all believed and accepted that there was an intelligence that lived within them that was giving them life. And
These people you interviewed who had injuries that overcame them?
No. These were people who were with cancer, MS, lupus, Parkinson's disease.
Who got better?
Yeah, just spontaneously. It's called a spontaneous remission. So
they believed there was an intelligence.
There was some invisible life force that they were connected to, that they felt like they had lost their connection to. They became separate and disconnected from. And that when they got the diagnosis, they woke up and said, man, I got to connect again, and I got to connect to my essence. And so they developed a relationship with it, just like you develop a relationship with anybody. It takes time. You got to be present. You got to connect. You got to experience. You got to be present. All of these things are important elements. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that they realized that it was the mismanagement of their emotions and the hormones of stress that really began to create their condition. Now, stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance. Stress is when your body's knocked out of homeostasis. We have an innate mechanism in our body that returns us back to order. So then if someone cuts you off on the LA freeway, you have an emotional reaction, but 15 minutes later, you're back to driving and you're over it, right? That's all organisms in nature can tolerate short-term stress.
But when it's all day long, all week, all year.
Yeah, so if you're reacting to, like if Tyrannosaurus Rex is chasing you, you have to make a decision. Am I going to use 20% of my energy? I'm going to use 100%. So it turns out when you're reacting to traffic.
200%.
Oh, right, or if you're reacting to your coworker sitting in the cubicle next to you.
Right.
You're turning on that response, and what was once very adaptive becomes very maladaptive, because when you turn on the stress response and you can't turn it off, now you're headed for disease. Now, I teach the blessing of the energy centers in this way because I want energy to move up a channel very freely in your nervous system. And as energy moves up that central axis of your spine, the electrical charges that are moving up down that fiber optic cable actually produce a tube of light. And that tube of light has been called the prana tube by yogis for thousands of years. And the prana tube is more light when there's more energy and a greater frequency moving up and down. Are you with me still? And everything we do, see that body over to the right? There's frequencies that are associated with each one of those energy centers. And there's nothing wrong with those energy centers. They just have to be in balance, in coherence, in order. Now, we teach this way so that the body can produce light and energy, emit more information, so that when you create and you sit down to do it, it's a natural reflex. You're priming your body this whole week for this to become more natural. And I took a ride with one of my friends from the airport, and she's having these spontaneous mystical experiences. I didn't do anything. Of course you're not doing anything. You've done enough. And when the soul is finally getting over the past, and we have people in this work that have had turbulent, abusive pasts, and the only thing they want to do is get over it. And when you get over it, all of a sudden the soul goes, boy, do I have a surprise for you. Just keep going, and I'm just going to arrange some really fun stuff. And so it becomes a natural side effect. We're priming the body, we're priming a pump, we're making different blocks. You don't think that there's memory stored in those brains, just like memory stored in this brain, that you have to shake loose. You don't think there's emotions stored in the body that need to implicit be released. And people start doing this work, and all of a sudden that energy starts to move, and there goes 25 years of guilt right up into pure energy into their brain, and their abdomen is contracting, and all of the body is releasing. It's not something they can stop it if they want to, but why would you want to? And when they keep relaxing and surrendering into it, it turns into joy, it turns into freedom, it turns into bliss, it turns into gratitude, it turns into grace. They're free. Body's no longer living as a 5-year-old kid or a 9-year-old kid. The conscious memory is not there, but it's in the body. And the body all of a sudden releases it, and now the soul goes, we're free, let's go. And all of a sudden the side effect of it is mystical moments, just inappropriate sometimes. You have a roommate, or you're in the grocery store, or you're at a party and you're dancing, and the next thing you know, you're wah, you know. But let me tell you, who knows what enlightenment looks like in this room? You think it looks a certain way? It can happen in any way. So the blessing of the energy centers are contact points. When I have digestive problems because I'm eating at night when I should be eating in the day and I'm on the wrong time zone, I sit up and I only have a few minutes. Where do I go? I go right to my third center and I work with it. It's my aspirin. It's my digestive enzyme. It's what I do. If I notice that my throat is getting a little bit sore and it's closing down because I've been talking a lot, or it's starting to feel like it's hoarse or whatever, I'll get on the plane, I'll put my blindfolds on, and I'll go right in that fifth center and I'll tune in and I'll just receive until I'm pleased or satisfied with the effort. If I'm laying down before I want to go to bed and I want to have a mystical or wacky dream, I'll sit up for a period of time and I'll just focus on my sixth center. Why the hell not? Now, they're just entry points in the body. As we get better at this, as we do more of this, as people can sit for extended periods of time, as they master this level, we're going to be doing stuff like that. And the pineal gland meditation is an example of being able to localize a portal, a door into one mystical moment. And yet, when the pineal gland gets activated because the energy moves all the way up, don't you know when energy starts moving up into these centers, energy is moving through these individual brains? Are you with me still? And come on.
Yeah. Yes.
And if it strikes the pineal gland is going to influence the next center called the pituitary. Then the pituitary is going to influence the pineal, and the pineal is going to influence the thyroid. And of course, the vasopressin slows down metabolism. Your body slows down metabolism, moves more into the present moment. So there's a downward causation of changes in chemistry and hormones because they are interrelated. Does that make sense? So there's sometimes I use my second center. I use it when I'm listening to my staff a lot of times tell me all the problems that are going on and all the breakdowns and all that stuff, and I just start tuning into my gut. What does my gut tell me? No, I don't want to do that. Well, that's the best choice. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm just trusting my gut. I tune in and it's saying, don't do it. But how would you know when your gut speaks to you unless you had a little attention on it and had a relationship with it and were able to interact with it? Are you with me still? So then you can use these. You could sit down and do it. Just pick one. And if it's a body part area that where you're having imbalance or whatever, and you want to speed up your thyroid or slow your thyroid down or whatever the hell you want to do, hold on to a symbol in your mind and tune in to the frequency that's going to begin to affect the chemistry. And we have had people do this, and they got really good at it. They were able to control the hormonal function that's not under the control of the conscious mind. It's under the control of the subconscious mind and the autonomic nervous system. And that used to be left to yogis, people that were spiritual beings that were living in caves, and that's just not the time any longer. The time now is that you and I have to be able to do that, and it just takes practice. It just takes a little practice, and the more you practice it, the better you get at it. So you're entering different parts of your body through different doors, and certain doors are closed for people. And for a lot of people, that fourth center is closed. It's closed because we shut it down when we were kids because we were embarrassed or humiliated or made fun of or traumatized in some way. And you say, well, I figured this out. That's not going to open up again. And so then the body is closing down because we have one or two experiences, and then all of a sudden, here we go. We're no longer the innocence of a child. We're no longer free. And people don't understand this, but when I've seen it happen in that walking meditation. I've stood beside men. I've stood beside them struggle. I've watched them struggle, and yet their intent to open that center, they stuck with it. And in 1 second, a flood of tears, uncontrollable sadness that has shut that center down is being released. And that person is healing in that moment. He is healing. He goes back into his life. He gets a vision and it's gone. His disease is gone. His body is out of the past. There's no right or wrong way to do this. We're just setting up a structure for you to get good at something so that we can start improvising and getting a little bit more loose and a little bit more free. But imagine me 10 years ago trying to get people to become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. And everybody's telling me how spiritual or how there's somebody, someone, something, somewhere, and sometime. And they can't sit still, and they're checking their watches, and they're not paying attention. They have no attention span. I got to start really basic. I got to start with putting your attention on your nose in space, and then becoming aware of the space around your head, and everybody hates me for that. And yet, for a lot of people, it's made significant changes in their brain, their heart, and everything else. And so we're building a model, and I do my best. We have 50% or so of the people in this audience, 45% of the people in this audience that have been to an advanced workshop or an advanced follow-up, and I want to make it exciting and fresh and new for them. But at the same time, I have people that have done a progressive online or a progressive with me personally, and this is a lot of content and a lot of information. So I don't want to lose anybody. I want to move everybody at once. When I wake up in the morning, I think I gotta make sure that everybody gets it. I gotta make sure that everybody understands it on some level. And then I watch and then I see where it's not moving, and then I tell a story or give an example or do something to try to move it again. But once we get good at this, and we're getting really good at it, I am so pleased. I am so pleased with the way you're doing. You are doing so well. We are on a trajectory here. And every time we do it, and you relax into it more, and it gets a little easier, and yeah, your analytical mind turns up every now and then, and you settle it down, and you get past it, and you don't get stuck there. That's the point. I've worked sometimes, I'm thinking this is the worst meditation, work, and all of a sudden, it goes away, and I have the most profound moment, and it was because I persevered. And that's what you're doing. And as I said the other night, you could be falling asleep on the plane. You know how many people in this work, when they had their post-brain scan after the pineal gland meditation, closed their eyes and went out of body or went dimensional, and we just happened to capture it? They said, I just relaxed. I didn't do anything, I didn't expect anything, I just relaxed, and the fireworks happened. It could happen to you at any moment when you're half between wakefulness and sleep. And when we do the kaleidoscope and finish this day, I want to catch you somewhere between there. I want you to be theta and groggy and awake and just listening to me and opening your eyes and closing your eyes, and let's get some new information in there, new imagery in there, and just drop it in, just keep dropping it in, and you keep thinking about it and dropping it in. Sooner or later you're going to start having those associations and those experiences. So for me, I hit it as many ways as I can, as many ways I could think of, to bring it in so that people are not bored by redundancy in so many ways. We keep changing it up, we keep making it easier, we keep simplifying it, we keep adding new things so that people begin to discover the mystery of themselves. And that's all I really want. So play with it. And when the love gets too much, move it into your throat and express it. That's what it's there for. And then once you express it, it'll move into your pineal gland, and all of a sudden you'll start seeing things with your eyes open. But you better be ready for that. Because when you're seeing things with your eyes open, there's a very fine line between, psychosis and reality. And just go easy there.